right, I'm gonna open the select board's meeting. It is May 2nd, it is 6:01. This, if I can get a waiver of the.
So moved.
Waitman seconds.
And roll call,
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Waitman aye.
and Nichols' eye, and this is also being shown on local cable. And we will start the meeting with the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next on the agenda are the minutes. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry, the warrant for 22W22 and payroll 22PW22.
Motion to approve.
And do I have a second?
Waitman seconds.
Any comments? Roll call,
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Waitman aye.
and Nichols' eye, excluding any COA wages. Next on the agenda are the minutes from April 4th, 11th, 19th, 21st, and 22nd. So
Do you want to approve them as a group or individual?
I think everybody attended all the meetings, correct?
Yes.
Did everybody have a chance to review the minutes?
Motion to approve as a unit?
I'm sorry to interrupt. Lyndon, you would have to abstain on the 22nd, the one from the 22nd.
Aha, see?
That was the phone call one. So maybe we should just do that one set.
Yeah, so excluding April 22nd. Is that okay?
Okay, that's fine with me.
And it's okay with the second. Leah, did you second? Or?
Yeah.
Oh, no. So we have a second for approval of the minutes except for the 22nd?
Waitman seconds.
Okay, any discussion or corrections? All right.
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Waitman aye.
And Nichols' eye. And then do we have a motion on the 22nd?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of 22nd.
Do we have a second?
Waitman seconds.
And roll call.
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Waitman aye.
And Nichols abstains. All right. Do you have anybody here for public comment? Oh, all right. We will go right on to the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing, pursuant to MGL Chapter 82, Section 32A. The Select Board will hold a public meeting on Monday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. to consider whether or not to discontinue the maintenance of Wachusett Road or portions thereof. Such discontinuance may be ordered upon a finding that such ways have been abandoned and unused for ordinary travel, and that the common convenience and necessity no longer requires said public way to be maintained in a condition reasonably safe and convenient for travel. Alright. So, proceed with any comments, or anybody on the board have any comments or questions?
So, the piece I struggle with is that this piece has never, for a very long time, hasn't had any sort of work or maintenance or anything. And I struggle with investing a whole lot of town resources, monetary, personnel, everything, into creating a road that currently has no houses on it. When we have a lot of existing roads in town, gravel roads especially, that have a lot of houses on that could benefit from that investment of funds and personnel and labor and everything. So, that's my thinking. And by being able to discontinue maintenance doesn't necessarily mean that always and forever it's not going to be. I know it seems like there's continues to be some back and forth as far as the deeds and the history of that roadway, and I think, Gary, you've done a lot of work on it also. So by us as a select board discontinuing maintenance kind of just puts a pause on it, allows either additional work to continue on figuring out ownership, or just we don't have the money at this time to invest in creating it into a road. it doesn't mean that always and forever it could never be a road. It still would have to be posted that that it's not currently maintained, it's travel at your own risk, and everything like that. But if suddenly down the road there's some major development or something, it's an easy enough option to undo. So that's my thinking.
Okay.
Through the chair, who put the signs on the road? From what I saw on my computer, there's a sign that says do not enter. Big green signs. Does town put them there?
I don't, Joe, did you put the signs there?
No, we put no signs up.
Skip, if I may, as long as I've lived in town, are they the old signs that are there? As long as I've lived in town.
Did you get what was sent, did you send it to everybody?
Yeah, I wonder if he's, talking about the sign that Princeton had on one of their roads. Remember you sent that as an example, and this is what the town of Princeton uses?
Right,
I
when we
wonder
were
if that's
talking about
what
posting the
So
hearing.
about.
The picture on the paper, the stuff you sent me, is the house is right there as you come off of Ridge Road. And there's a big green sign with two big stones right at the end of the road.
So if I may, I think,
Yep.
as far as I know, that sign has been up since I've moved to town 12, 13 years ago. I think it says road closed 2 miles ahead or something. I think 2 miles, that puts it into Princeton, and it's been,
I don't know, but
if that's the road, I mean, I don't know if anybody else in the audience knows any feedback about that, but
That sign's been there for quite a while.
so. The road was never discontinued by town meeting, but I can see that I found, that I looked into. And that was a road, I lived in that neighborhood, I used to travel that road all the time to Rutland, because Wachusett Street wasn't there until the 60s when it cut my folks' property right in half.
Yeah.
So,
and
I just don't, not that we should spend a ton of money fixing it, I didn't say that, I'm not saying that. But as far as us being the select board or the town or whatever, saying it was not a town road, it was.
And if I may, through the chair, my argument is not whether or not it's a town road. My argument is, hey, we don't have the money to put into
Well,
if it is a town road.
I'm not disagreeing with
So-
you there, Leah. I'm
And
not
I know,
disagreeing.
I know.
But, but for us to say no, it's not a town road, it is a town. In my eyes, it's a town road.
So the
Right,
hearing,
Right, tonight, we're talking about whether we're gonna maintain it or not. We're not determining that it's not a town road. And that was my concern originally when I found out we were actually, doing work on the road, is we don't have enough gravel, we don't have enough staff, and we're already paying for an overdraft on chapter 90 money as it is, and a lot of other expenses that we're gonna be looking at. So the town doesn't really have the materials or the resources.
And I don't
to do
disagree
that.
with
So I
that.
think that was the main concern that we
And-
brought up.
and if I may, the hearing tonight actually would not determine whether or not it's a town road. It doesn't say, we're not, in my mind, the hearing tonight is not about whether or not it's a town road or anything. It's just saying we don't have the funds to invest into bringing it up to passable standards. It hasn't been passable standards for a number of years. I think, I don't know if you would agree with me or not, but I know since I've moved in town, there's been, maple sugaring lines and stuff across it for a long time. So it's more just that we don't have the funds to put into it right now. We're not arguing that it's whether it's a town road or not. We're just saying, hey, we can't put money into it right now. And that's that.
Right, and it says no longer required said public way to be maintained in a condition reasonably safe and convenient for travel, because it hasn't been traveled in several years. So this is not determining,
Okay.
it's not determination on that it's a public way. Probably with any.
Got a lot of people here, I know, if you saw this one.
I don't know if the board wants to entertain that or not, then. We do not know who the person is or what their qualifications are. right, I'm gonna open it up to public comments. Anybody have a public comment? If you can just identify your name and your address.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is George Carizzi. I live at 212 East County Road here in Rutland. I'm an attorney and I also represent the Zotleys, who are the owners of the property on both sides of Wachusett Road. So Wachusett Road, I've done the research, I've gone back to literally the 18th century. And this is identified as a town road in deeds, all the way back, laid out as far back as 1772 that I went. And at that point, I figured it's not worth going back much further than that because it's pretty clearly on the record title as being a town road. And it's always been a town road. Back in the 1980s, the town took up a motion on the town meeting as to whether or not they were going to discontinue the road as a public way. And they-
Just not to interrupt you, but we're not making a determination,
I know.
we're not arguing that it's not a town road.
Okay. But the town voted back in the 1980s not to abandon the road, not to discontinue it. When it came up, they took no action on it. When it was before the town people as to whether or not town of Rutland should get rid of this road, they decided not to act on it. They did not act on it. Now, 35 years later, the select board, not the town, at the town meeting, but the select board is taking up an issue whether or not they're gonna continue to maintain it. And I'd suggest that back in the 80s, when the town was presented with an issue as to whether or not this should continue as a town road and whether it should be maintained, the town did not decide to go in that direction. And what's troubling here is that the select board is now, at this time, looking to abandon a road which is 250 years a town way on the town books. This is the Zotleys own property on both sides. They've owned this property, it's always been along the town road. They've got access to their properties along this way. They've got lots now that have been created on this way. They've got street numbers for those lots. And now, 250 years later, they're creating a situation where the town looks to abandon the road and discontinue the maintenance. This result, this decision, or what's taking place here, has A, forced them to abandon farming on these properties because of access. There's literally rocks, boulders blocking the road, which under all statutory authority, you can't block the way, because even if you abandon the road and discontinue the maintenance, it's still open to the public and people have the right to access it. So blocking them off from that road was wrong. And regardless of what the town's decision is, he has the right to use it and travel that way. But he's been forced to give up farming this year because the town's blocked off his road. And what's really troubling is that this is a decision that comes up, not coincidentally, it comes up almost immediately after he decides that he's gonna intend to convert the use. Then now the town says, okay, now, in order to exercise a right of first refusal and force the price down and pay you a fraction of what the property is worth, we're gonna abandon the roadway, we're not gonna continue maintaining the roadway, we're not gonna maintain your public way, even though it's been on the books for 250 years, we're not gonna do that so that we can pay you a fraction of what it's worth. And that's not fair. I'd suggest here that he bought the property knowing it's a public way. Towns had an opportunity for years, for decades, to deal with this, and they said, no, we're gonna keep it on the books, it's a public way, taxes being assessed, it's a public way. And now that he decides that he's gonna look into selling this property, the town says, we're gonna abandon the road, and now we're gonna pay you a fraction of what it's worth. It seems unfair, it seems inconsistent with the purposes of what Chapter 61A was. It's an attempt to create a situation which lowers value so the town can exercise a right of first refusal, forcing the price down. And I don't think that's what the intent of the statute is, and that's not the purpose of Section 32A is. It's also inconsistent with what Rutland does. Rutland has several gravel roads that are maintained by the town. Brittenell is one, Irish Lane, Glenwood Place. They're all gravel ways, they're all public ways, and the town maintains them. Why would you single out Zottley's land and say you're no longer gonna get the benefit of the town road? I know it's been on the books, you've been paying taxes as if it's the public way, but we're now gonna stop maintaining your road. It singles him out for treatment, which is different than anybody else in this town, and that's not fair. His tax money, he pays his tax monies that he does pay, go to improve the roadways for everybody else in this town. And then when it comes to his roads, this town says, we're gonna walk away from your road. And by the way, this road here also does still connect to Princeton. It's not blocked off at the other end. There are people that still come down. People still travel down both ways on this. Doesn't have a lot of volume because Wachusett Street is still exists, and so most people travel Wachusett, but it's there. And it should be maintained and improved. It provides another access into Princeton in case there's a problem on Wachusett. Mutual aid would use it. It's a public safety issue. The road is still exists in Princeton. In Princeton, when Wachusett Street was built, Princeton didn't abandon the property owners on Brook Station Road. It's old Brook Station Road. Rutland shouldn't be doing it now that Mr. Zotley's looking to build on his property. It just seems unfair, and it's not, I'm not saying it has to be paved, it doesn't have to have services provided, but it should be gravelled the way that any other of these roads would have been. It's an old road, it's a venerable road, it exists back into the 250s. It was the only road into Princeton in the 1700s. It should be maintained by the town. It should not be abandoned. And the town would respectfully request that the board vote not to, on this public hearing, vote not to abandon the way. It is a town way, and Mr. Zotley deserves to have that way maintained by the town.
So when you say discontinue the maintenance, has it been kept plowed and gravelled and it's been used on a regular basis? I mean, when you say we're gonna stop any maintenance, what maintenance has been done over the last
I don't
several
know the
years?
town's done maintenance, but people still use it. People still come down that road, so.
There were, weren't there trees in the road, Joe? I mean, what's the condition of the road? Is it drivable?
Yes. Now.
To address the chair, Public Works didn't take any action on maintaining the road until the property owner notified us of the condition of that, and we investigated and found out, we believed at that time it was a public road. There were no trees actually growing through the road. There were trees down on the road, and they were sizable. We picked them up and moved them off to one side like we would on any other gravel road.
So it was not being accessed? If there are trees against it, it wasn't being used as a public way at
Again,
that time?
through the chair, we got a complaint, we addressed
Right.
it. I can't speak to the volume of traffic or who was using it.
But there were trees, sizable trees
There were
across the
sizable
road.
trees blocking the roadway, yes.
Mr. Chairman? I can
If
address
you
that.
can name and address.
Robert Soderberg, 3 Ridge Road. I've lived there for over 40 years. I used to, when I first moved there, walk down that road. Over the past, I'm going to estimate 10 years, I was unable to walk down that road. The trees were down on the road, it was maple sugaring lots. If that was me, if that was a private road, a town road, which I own both sides of Ridge Road on my property, if I had maple sugaring lines going across Ridge Road, I'm sure the DPW supervisor, anyone else would have come after me. That is not a used road, a town used road. If you gave Mr. Kurtzy here about 10 minutes, I'd like the opportunity to present a set of slides I have in 10 minutes or under that could clarify a lot of the questions that everybody has here.
It's the board's.
That's fine.
Any objections to the scene? Okay.
One thing I'd like to address foremost is the claim, the 1987 meeting, which I was at. I don't believe you were there. The people of Rutland, I think Mr. Williams was here with me, we had no opportunity to speak at the meeting. It was just decided no action to be taken. With that said, I have a set of slides here.
This is what I saw.
So what you're looking at here is a drone, not a drone footage, but an aerial footage of Corner Ridge Road and Wachusett Street, which is now Wachusett Street. That is my house right there. It was originally a 100-acre farm. When Wachusett Street came in, when they relocated Wachusett Road and abandoned portions of Wachusett Road, it comes down to that little, down to the right, towards Princeton. In fact, the previous owner was given a whopping sum of $1,200 for the land that the town took from them to do that. Go to the next slide, please. This is, I did a lot of research in the archives on the annual town meeting. This is 1898, when the town adopted Wachusett Road, not 1700s, 1898. As you can see on the left, Wachusett Road, I can't read it from here, but I have it on my slides, went from Pound Hill to the Princeton line. Ridge Road was not called Ridge Road at that time. It was called Ridge Road - Wachusett Road, because Wachusett Road ran down Ridge Road and went down Mr. Zobley's Road to Princeton. In December 1956, there's an excerpt of the map of the relocation, dislocation, alteration of Wachusett Road that I put up there. That is recorded with the Registry of Deeds on December 10th, 1956, where you can see going up to the top of the screen on that map is Ridge Road. But you can also see the new location shows Wachusett Road going in the other direction where Wachusett Street presently is. So that was relocated. January 24th, 1961, we have a letter from the county commissioner outlining relocation and discontinuation of county roads, including sections of Wachusett Road. Well, if you can go back 1 second, please. Sorry. So on the picture below the map, you can see the dotted red line, which is the old Wachusett Road, was relocated to the new Wachusett Road. So anyways, this is a letter from the county commissioner in 1961 addressing the layout, alteration, relocation, and discontinuance of certain highways in the town of Rutland, specifically Wachusett Road. Down below you can see that it's actually addressing this portion from Overlook, they call it Overlook Street, which is now referred to as Overlook Road, to the Princeton town line. So essentially, what my interpretation of this is that the county commissioner discontinued that section of Wachusett Road, relocated it to its current position. Go to the next slide.
That, by the way, would be great.
In 1968, the town voted to rename sections of Wachusett Road that were affected by the relocation, alteration, and discontinuation of Wachusett Road. Specifically, Wheeler Road was part of Wachusett Road. It was part of the Wachusett Road system. It was voted to give it a new name, Wheeler Road, based on a long-standing Wheeler family in Rutland. The new portion of Wachusett Street, from Glenwood Road to the now bottom of Wheeler Road, was given the name Wachusett Street. There was no mention whatsoever of that section of Wachusett Road in question giving a name. It did not get the name No Name Road, as some people refer to it as. In fact, it's not on a zoning map, it's not on a tax map. It's listed as No Name Road or Four-Wheel Drive Road. Now, although Ridge Road / Wachusett Street, or Wachusett Road, as listed in the 1898 list, did not, I could find no documentation where that actually took place, but subsequently, Ridge Road / Wachusett Road became Ridge Road. There was no action taken to rename the section of Wachusett Road that we're discussing tonight. Next slide, please. Now, this is from a recent appraisal. The town hired an appraiser. In her opinion, it is not a public road. Next slide, please. Now, the key here is even if we do the public, even if, let's just say, even if the public does retain some rights in this road, she does not believe that the town must make it safe for development because of the wetlands delineation, cutting, filling, acceptable grades. We're looking, I'm no DPW supervisor, but it's gonna be a lot of money. And I don't know about you guys, but I pay quite a bit of taxes here in Rutland. And I really don't want it to go up anymore. Next slide. I don't really want to talk about the A&R. I think we all make mistakes.
Why not?
You want to, I'll
You should talk about it.
No, that is not, that is not tonight's
I'll gladly
discussion.
talk about the A&R. Gladly.
We're discussing the road tonight.
Anytime you want. Now, I had so many Google Earth images going back to 1985. They all look the same. Somewhere in there's a road. Here's street view. You can see the nice lawn at the entrance to this quote-unquote public way. It has not been maintained. When I was in high school, we used to drive my mother's Volkswagen up there. It was pretty tough back then with a Volkswagen. That was the early 70s.
But you did it.
Yeah, did it. It's probably the only one. Well, can you go back 1 second? It hasn't been maintained. It's been essentially treated as a private way. I mean, again, if I put maple sugar vines across Ridge Road, I would have, probably not the town, the state, but probably the federal government coming after me. The grades aren't sufficient. It's, anyways, next slide. And I personally feel, for the information that evolved since the A&R was approved, there's no way that this would pass again. Here's a sign, you were talking about a picture. There's the sign, the green sign, no trespassing and no hunting sign, holds in the middle of the road. This was in February of 2022. Next slide. Now, this is very interesting. This goes back to 2020. First thing I want to point out is Joe Buckley has done what he has done on the road at the direction of the previous select board. But what's interesting here, this is legal town council advice to the town. The owner does not have a cause of action against the town compelling the town to improve Wachusett Road. Landowners do not have a private cause against the town requiring it to expend funds to improve a public way to make it easier, repeat, easier for owners to develop private property. But we did it anyways. And again, Joe was doing what he was doing. Next slide, please. Now, to kind of sum up here, to eliminate potential further use of taxpayer dollars to improve an unpassable apparent paper street that has been unused for more than half a century and appears to be already discontinued by the county commissioner. I'm asking all of you, for the people of Rutland, please officially vote to discontinue maintenance. Next slide. Now, the benefits to the town, this is ceasing maintenance. The town is absolved of any potential liability. The town doesn't have to spend money on the road. Maintenance does not change the status of the A&R. The legal risk is minimal, providing you follow the MGL, which you have so far. Most important thing is to post both ends of the road. The decision can be reversed. Based on mass case law, and this is important, because it goes to Mr. Kirsty's point earlier, based on mass case law that I've looked at, a vote to discontinue does not admit it is a town road. Next one, please. Now, I think this should be a learning experience, but I think, first and foremost, I think the town should seek legal counsel. May also want to proactively abandon or look at other roads with similar standing. The other thing, my mouth is going a little dry here, sorry. I'd like to request the town recall the survey that was put up on the Registry of Deeds. Based on my information, it appears the town of Rutland does not currently and has never owned the land delineated in the survey. The deed actually shows, Mr. Zotley's deed shows his property lines crossing that road. Also, due to the lack of survey points, it's my understanding survey points were arbitrarily assigned during the survey from stone wall to stone wall. I'd also like to see this road, quote-unquote road, removed from the Chapter 90 list, as it was recently added within the past 1 to 2 years. And then consider officially abandoning the road. Next, please.
That's all.
That's it?
Yep.
That's it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Two things. The first thing I didn't talk about, he says it wasn't a town road, and he points to a vote naming roads. The fact is that in the late 19th centuries, towns officially acted to name roads. Old roads, venerable roads, roads created during the colonial periods, they didn't have names. It was the road to Campbell's house. And so it becomes Campbell Street later on. The towns voted to give names in the late 1800s. That's what happened. So that's what that vote was. This road, there's two ways that roads become public. That's either after the 1845, they have to follow a strict statutory procedure where the select board lays out the road and the town votes for it at the town meeting. That's the way they become public post 1845. Pre-1845, there was a layout practice, or the road could be dedicated to public use, privately dedicated to public use. This road was laid out in the 1700s. The deeds are clear that there's a town road going through the premises. This is even before it was the Cowden Farm. Back in the 1700s, there's a town way going through it. This is a public way. I have no doubt that the evidence is going to clearly establish that. But it's one point that he raised, which I need to just caution the board on. He suggested that it was a county road. And county roads stand in a different fashion. And the case law is clear. If this was a county road, you have no authority to even post, when the county has given up their rights, you don't have the authority to abandon that way. If it's a town road, you do. So I came here saying, I can't see on the record title that this was a county road. He suggested it was a county road. There's some evidence that it was a county road. This town, you do not have the authority to abandon old county roads. And there's case law on that back in the 1980s, where a town using section 32A to abandon maintenance or to discontinue maintenance of a former county road said that's not the procedure you have to, that's a totally different procedure. You can't do it under section 32A. So if this was a county road, this particular procedure is inapplicable to that road. I thought it was a town road, so I wasn't raising that argument. If it is a county way, you don't have the authority under section 32A to abandon the maintenance or discontinue the maintenance under 32A. So it's a town way, regardless of what he says. It's a public way.
Like I said, we're not here to determine whether it says it's a public way. We're not arguing. We're deciding on whether we're going to maintain it or not.
Why would you, I guess
Because
just through the
it
chair.
hasn't been maintained for several years or used as a road.
So why now?
Well, why maintain it
Make
now?
this vote. Right now you do this again. For years you've not maintained it. You never had the vote. under 32A, which was available to you for 35 years. But now that Mr. Zolli says, I want to do this, you're gonna formally declare it's non-passable, and you're gonna put, or you're not gonna maintain it, you're gonna put signs up telling people it's not gonna be maintained. Why wasn't this done for
It
35
was
years?
brought to this board's attention at this time, and we're looking at the condition of the road. Kurt, do you want to-
Yeah, I take exception with the fact that earlier when you spoke, first you said that it was us as a board who has decided to all of a sudden bring this up. And I take exception with that because it was Mr. Zottoli wanting to change over and sell his land out his lots, that this happened to come along at the same time.
But that
So he
doesn't change
prepped
the
it.
road.
No, but I'm telling you what I take exception with, that you said that it was the board. Why all of a sudden, when Mr. Zottoli wants to do something, we are going to take this action?
Well,
So
he-
I'm,
Okay,
thank you, I just made a statement. There was no conversation, just a statement. And again, we're not looking to abandon the road. We're looking to discontinue something that we have not maintained for decades and has not been used as a passable street or passable way for decades. And don't conflate the two. We're not abandoning, we're asking,
well, you're abandoning, you're not discontinuing,
we're asking to discontinue maintenance. That's what
which is
this.
abandonment.
No, it's
No,
not.
it is
No,
not.
It is.
It is
so
not.
There's discontinuance, that's under section 21, and then there is abandonment, which is under section 32A. Abandonment means discontinuing maintenance. Discontinue is the town vote under 21. So we're just using technical terms. We use the same word discontinue, but once discontinue maintenance, and the caption is abandonment of section 32. MGL 82, section 32A, the caption of it is, the title says, abandonment.
So if you read, if I may, sorry, we have legal counsel from town,
Sure.
and you're correct, there's two different options. We can abandon it as a town, and that takes a town vote, 2/3 at a town meeting, to abandon it. And then that would basically mean we are no longer, the town is no longer claiming it is a road and it's abandoned. We can also, as select board, discontinue maintenance, that then puts the pause on things.
So if I can we're flipping the words. Abandon comes under 32A. And that's when you, I know what you say, but just look at the caption, look at the title of section 32A. It says abandonment of ways. And you discontinue the maintenance, which is what they mean by abandonment. But discontinue the way happens at the town meeting. But that's, I mean, it's your vote, you're gonna do it. Mr. Zolli's gonna reserve his rights, because there's under section 24, there's gonna be rights for damages, and if he has to sue for damages, he'll reserve those rights.
Mr. Chairman, could I bring something to the bench, just to show you what he was talking about regarding Mass General Law?
Well, I think Leah, you already have that up, don't you?
I don't think you did.
I have the, yeah, I mean, if you wanna, it's up to you if you want to.
Why don't you look and see if it's the same one that you've got pulled up?
So, I have discontinuing Wachusett Road as a public way. The town could avoid liability for defects in Wachusett Road if town meeting votes to discontinue it as a public way pursuant to GL 82, section 21. The discontinuance would not only relieve the town from maintenance liability, but it would extinguish the public's right to use Wachusett Road, and could also extinguish access rights for butters, depending upon what private easement right the butters hold.
That's discontinued.
For this reason, the discontinuation of Wachusett Road as a public way might give rise to claims for damages by owners whose access is affected thereby. Under GL 82, section 24, a person sustaining damages to his property as a result of the discontinuance of a public way, discontinuance, not discontinuing maintenance,
Got it.
discontinuance,
Yep.
of a public way may recover damages by bringing an action under GL Chapter 79. Then it goes into the steps if we wanted to do a discontinuing of the way. Discontinuing the way, essentially abandoning it.
No, not abandoning, discontinuing, 21.
Discontinuing
Yeah,
the
I
way.
agree.
Discontinuing maintenance of Wachusett Road as a public way. Alternatively, the select board may proceed under GL Chapter 82, Section 32A to relieve itself of the obligation to maintain Wachusett Road. Specifically, Section 32A states, the select board may, after holding a public hearing, notice of which shall be sent by registered mail, return receipt requested to all property owners abutting an affected road, and notice of which shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the town once in each of 2 consecutive weeks, the first publication to be not less than 14 days before the day of the hearing, and by posting in a conspicuous place in the office of the town clerk for a period of not less than 14 days before the day of the hearing, upon finding that a townway or public way has become abandoned and unused for ordinary travel, and that the common convenience and necessity no longer requires said townway or public way to be maintained in a condition reasonably safe and convenient for travel, shall declare that the town shall no longer be bound to keep such a way or public way in repair, and upon filing of such declaration with the town clerk, such declaration shall take effect, provided that sufficient notice to warn the public that the way is no longer maintained is posted at both ends of such a way or public way or portions thereof. So that's under 32A.
That's abandonment.
No.
It's discontinuance of maintenance.
Yes, but it says, I know, you said discontinue, you said I had it wrong. It's find that it's abandoned, that's in the statute, and the caption of 32A is abandonment. Discontinue is town vote. It doesn't really matter semantics. I'm telling you now, they recycle the word,
Right.
discontinue. They use it under 21 for the town vote, and they say discontinue of maintenance if they find it's been abandoned. So they abandon it under 32A. It's okay, I'll deal with it in court, it's not a problem.
But, did Mr. Zotley want to speak? Is he in the town?
Sure.
Maybe my daughter would speak. I'm just listening.
Because you're the only true abutter to the road, so the issue tonight is the road and the maintenance of the road.
I mean, my understanding is this is about not abandoning the road, just discontinuing maintenance. Are we,
Correct.
his whole thing was a little different, and so I just want to make sure we're very aware of, that I'm
Yes.
correct on what I'm assuming.
And are you currently farming on the land and using the road?
Not this year.
Not this year. Have you been using the
We
road?
have been farming on it up until this year.
You have.
Well, Jordan has.
Under license. We had to revoke the license when the road got closed.
The Jordan farm was using the fields up until this year.
And they no longer have access because the road was
Yeah.
blocked.
No,
Well, that's what your attorney said,
Yeah.
that the town blocked the road, and so
Yeah.
that's
We
why you
revoked
had,
all license.
because the road was
In
blocked.
part, yeah. You can't get
In
there.
part?
We have liability.
Yeah.
Are we dealing with private property rights, or are we dealing with the use of the property?
Okay.
He's not farming the land this year because there's no access there. It's not wise for
But it-
him to let anybody out there.
But you didn't discontinue prior to the road being blocked.
No, this is the
No.
first year.
Right. But the timing, Joe, when was the road blocked and why?
Last fall.
yeah, I think last fall, was it?
We closed the road last fall, and we left it closed per your request. The board asked me to leave it blocked pending
So it's been
additional
closed since
construction.
last
Yes.
fall.
After the farming. We farmed it last year. After the season,
Well, I just wanted clarification, because you said that we stopped him from farming.
he has stopped farming because of the issue with this road.
If I may, I have a question, maybe this is for Joe, or prior to the road, DPW closing the road with the boulders or whatever, I thought the road was pretty much impassable with my maple sugaring lines going across and the fallen trees and everything down for quite a while. I don't know what the timeline is or anything, so my understanding was the clearing of the trees almost opened it up. Still not make it passable, but more so that, so we had asked them to basically stop because it was,
Name and address, please.
Michael Botruba, 68B Campbell Street. I'd just like to add to the timeline, April 30th, 2021, I drove down that road. I was able to drive the whole way. I remember because it's my brother's birthday and it was a good day. And I believe some statements have been made by the board that there's been no maintenance done in the last 10, 20 years, but it appears that maintenance was done last year. Looks like a survey was completed and maintenance was started. So to say that nothing has been done in the last 10, 20 years is not quite true. And I would hope if we started maintaining it, we would continue.
So, Mr. Zotley, were there maple trees being tapped on the property?
There were for a short time. I didn't realize that the people who were tapping the land had gone across the street, and I told them to remove them immediately, and they did.
I don't think, Rob Sodbury, Three Ridge Road, short period of time is very subjective, I guess. I'm gonna estimate probably 5 to 10 years that those lines have been there. And I believe the only reason they were taken down is because Joe was directed to do maintenance on the road. In fact, in speaking with the people that had the maple sugar lines, a bunch of their lines were run over by the town equipment after spending $10,000 to help Mr. Zotley comply with Chapter 61A.
No, they were not.
Name and address.
Julian Votruba, I own New England Environmental Design. I met Mr. Zotley.
Your address.
153 East Hill Road, Oakham. I met Mr. Zotley about 3 years ago, and I'm an engineer, land surveying company, consulting firm, and I looked at the deeds and I looked at the property with him, and I walked the property, and I actually drove my 1986 Chevy Silverado pickup truck down that road. And I have done that for the last 3 years, up until the rocks got put in, and I was there yesterday, and I came in from Princeton, and drove all the way up to the rocks, and I was able to turn around, do a 3-point turn in that road, and drive back out through Princeton. So, the first thing I did on this property, as a consulting firm, is I found out the status of this road through the town clerk. It's on the roster. She said I have to look into the records. She also contacted Mr. Buckley. This is probably 2 years ago. And they decided, they realized that yes, this is, and Mr. Buckley hired a outside survey company to lay out the road because it was indeed a town road. Last fall, after getting appropriated funding to fix the road, he started to do work on the road to bring it up to a better passable condition. In the meantime, as this was coming to this point last fall, I had done soil tests, all witnessed by the town of Rutland Board of Health. There was actually 2 Board of Health witnesses on this property, watching the work be done. And we then did a Form A plan to split this into the lots that we got soil tests for. At no time during that entire process was it ever said, even, and Joe will attest to this, I've talked to Joe many times, like, what's going on? Well, winter's here, winter's here. And then the last conversation I had with the DPW director is, I was told to not do anything else. So like, there's oddly spent not hundreds of dollars, not thousands of dollars, but tens of thousands of dollars to get this to this point, completely based on what the town clerk said, what the previous Board of Selectmen said, and what the DPW director said. And now we're sitting here saying, no, we're not gonna maintain this road anymore, and this poor guy, just too bad for you. That's not right, that's not fair, and that's,
But I mean, there's
Wrong.
still debate as far as what the previous Board of Selectmen said, because 3 of the selectmen still sit on the board.
they, did not the DPW send machines down there and stop bringing gravel in?
But that does not mean the board told them specifically to do that. That's not quite exactly the way that it.
Can we ask, can I ask Mr. Buckley through the board? Why did you decide to go onto that road?
If we could maintain a certain level of decorum, please.
Okay.
If the chair would like to ask me a
Right.
question regarding the proceedings we're going
I'm
through
just
right
saying that,
now.
but it keeps saying that it was the previous board, and the board is not the entire board is different, so we have been through part of this process.
Okay.
Would you like to say your name and address, please?
My name is George Jones. I live on Brittenell Drive in Rutland. It is a public road, and as a point of safety, I'd like to say in 2016, my house caught on fire at 10 o'clock in the morning. The Rutland Fire Department responded within 4 minutes. And because North Rutland is now an island with no water, they were unable to save my house. They did everything possible. They had 7 towns there trying to put the fire out. If you block this road permanently and a lightning strike happens over there, God forbid this gentleman's house is in the way, but you're gonna lose it, because there's no way that there's enough water in that part of town if they can't get to the area, and it'll just be a massive mess. That's all I can say.
Regarding that comment, there's a fire pond across the street from my house. I don't need any water from Princeton, believe me. To follow up on Julian's point about driving a truck down, I have a four-wheel drive John Deere tractor, but I have to put four-wheel drive to get out of there last.
Must be broken.
No, it's not.
All right, I think we're gonna discontinue any more conversation, because it's just a lot of going back and forth at this point. Unless the board has any other comments.
I mean, I just wanted to reiterate, there's currently no houses built on the portion of the road that we're talking about. And we're not saying to, in my mind, I don't know how we can reasonably sit here and say we're gonna bring that road up to passable standards, that public safety could safely get down there with houses on it, when we have other existing gravel roads in town with a lot of houses on them that we hear from residents over and over and over again that they need more attention and that they need. So I struggle with the investment of, like I said at the beginning, of the dollar investment as well as the manpower and everything when we're as short-staffed as we are, when our funding situation is less than favorable, and that we're going to essentially create a road with no houses on it at the moment.
I mean, I know that was my main concern, was we were prioritizing the road that we were not really actively using when we were not keeping up with the roads that we currently were trying to maintain, so we were running low on gravel and resources. Any other comments regarding? No? Any motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Whitman will second.
And roll call?
Clock eye.
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols' eye? All right. And I would entertain any motion.
So I would move that the board move forward to discontinue maintenance of Wachusett Road, No Name Road, whatever that portion is, from Ridge down into Princeton, following GL 82, Section 32A, posting it as such and filing it with the town clerk.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Clock nay.
Benoit, aye.
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols, aye.
Thank you, folks.
All right, to department head updates, we're gonna go to the treasurer.
I just got a question. So did that pass or not with the 3-1? I'm just not sure. Is that
Yes.
That passed? I was just curious if it had to be unanimous or not.
No.
Thank you. Thank you. Just wondering, that's all. The motion passed, please. Okay, just a motion.
All right, okay, you're just here to talk about insurance, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
And that's bad enough.
Nice and easy.
Yeah, nice.
Sure. Sort of easy. This is annually, I come before the board to have, just update the board on the insurance rates for the coming year for our employees. And I think I provided everybody with where we're at and what the recommendation of the, we had 2 meetings 1.5 meetings with the Insurance Advisory Committee. We have health insurance through Maya, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield. They offer, cover us for dental insurance as well. The rates came in with a 7.5% increase, which I think I've discussed with the board before. We did get quotes from Maya to compare, to try and reduce that increase. The only way we could reduce the increase would be to increase the deductible to the employees. Last year was the first year we put into place a deductible of $250 for an individual and $750 for a family plan. It wasn't well received by the IAC, so by increasing it the next year, we put it into place last year. By increasing it this year, there was, if we increased it to $300, $900, our increase would have gone down to a 6.96%. If we increased it to a $500 to $1,000 deductible, our increase would have gone down to 4.92. But the burden of those deductible increases would have been on the employees. So basically, the IAC, how do I say it? Last year, they weren't happy that we put the deductibles into place. So going with an even higher deductible this year was not something that they were looking to entertain. And in my opinion as well, we needed to see how the deductibles are being used and who was using the deductibles, and instead of increasing them, the recommendation is to go with the 7.5% that was proposed and not make any changes to the plan this year. One of the other things, when I brought the budget to the Finance Committee, one of the other things that was suggested was to look at an HRA plan, which I didn't know what that was. So I started got some information, but this was in April, and we need to make a decision on plans for May 1st. So, which we're already a day late. So I did get some good information where it would reduce the premiums, and we could balance it out with the town contributing like 50% of that deductible. What would happen if you increase the deductible to $1,000, $2,000? The town would contribute 50% of that. It would reduce the premium, and we would pay half the deductible, but overall it would be a savings for the town and the employees. But with the time constraints we were faced with, I can look at that for next year. But with this, the way we are right now, the recommendation is to go with a 7.5% increase for the health insurance. The dental insurance is at a 0.79% increase with no plan changes, and that's the first time in a couple of years that there's been an increase to dental. Our flexible spending plan that we offer to the employees, we are, last year the contribution total that they could contribute was $2,750. We're going to increase that to $2,850 that the employee contributes on their own, and the town still contributes $150 towards that. And you can roll over, instead of $500, you can roll over $570 into the next fiscal year. Because it used to be with the flexible spending, you have to spend everything by June 30th, and then use it or lose it, basically. So we've increased that rollover amount for people, so they won't lose the funds if they haven't spent it in that year. And we offered a vision plan last year. There was, for the vision plan, that 100% employee paid. There's no contribution by the town, but the rates came in at a 3.5% decrease. So that's the recommendation is to go with the 7.5, to do no plan changes, a 7.5% increase for health, 0.79 for dental, and increase those amounts for flexible spending. And just looking forward, see if you have any questions or,
So now, are these the numbers that you gave the finance committee for the budget?
yes, the budget with those increases, my budget. The total budget for the year is 868, 321. And that's a 10% increase over last year.
320.45. Every penny counts.
Round it up. Trying to lose the pennies, right?
Does anybody on
No.
the board have any questions?
No, 45 cents.
Chris, name and address.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Christopher Senecal, 64 Glenwood Road. I'm not here for this, but I just went through this in my own company 6 months prior to April 1st. Found healthcare get out of the commercial industry. I have 100 employees. I had to find a new healthcare plan after 15, 18 years with them. We went with Always. We had a great plan with no deductible. Okay, it was one of the best plans in the construction industry. My agent used to tell me. But looking at the $70,000, $80,000, $100,000 increase in this year's premiums, we tailored it to the deductibles that were just. It was very. We drilled down into, for instance, inpatient care and stay. So it's just a day surgery, or if you had to go in, for instance, for like having a baby or something, for overnight care.
Yeah.
And we applied the deductible just to that. Looking at the demographic of our people, in the little amount that they used some of those areas,
Right.
it helped us say, why do we pay this money up front to this insurance company when very little, we looked at the data of the history of our employees and how they use certain aspects of the health plan.
Right.
Another thing, like the deductible doesn't apply to preventative care.
That's correct.
Only selective care. So again, we're a younger demographic being in construction, but our employees are hardly using that. So rather than just giving up that $100,000 up front, we flipped it into the deductible plan where they only use it if they have to. And you save a lot of money, both, the town, and me as my company, my employees save every month.
Right.
Their weekly deductions went down. And they're saving money now,
Yeah.
and we're just not front loading all that money. So I think it's an excellent idea what you've done, ma'am.
Right.
I'm not sure your name, but kudos to her, and keep looking at that, because that's a great way to save money for everybody. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did actually, the history, we did look at the history of who over the last year used the deductible, and it was about 7 to 10 people, employees, that had to pay something towards the deductible. So it's a smaller amount, so we're hoping that will continue and we can it's just getting the employees on board with all the other expenses that are coming down the pike and that type of stuff. So we're slowly going, increasing the deductible and looking at the HRA and that type of stuff, other options. One of the other things that I really would like to look at for next year is to possibly offer a plan that has no deductible, which we can do this. I kind of talked to our rep already. A plan that has no deductible, so that would be at a higher premium, and then a plan with a medium deductible and a plan with a high deductible. So the employees could choose which one that they wanted to go with, and that it would, so if they wanted to pay higher premium but not pay a deductible, they could do that. Or you could, for somebody who doesn't go to the doctor's office, doesn't have something, it's health insurance is basically a gamble. Are you gonna need it, for something or not, So you could go with a higher deductible, pay less in premium, but then you run the risk if, you need to have your knee replaced or whatever, and then you're paying that deductible in that year, so.
Anybody have any questions? Or?
I look forward to working with you next year about what we can do and the different options that are available, so thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you because I know last year it was not necessarily a pleasant experience just for everybody. And so I appreciate the work that you've done kind of throughout the year to see what the true cost was on the town side as well as the employee side, and really work to get the ICA back and going again and everything. And so I appreciate that work, and I know it's cost of healthcare is constantly, something that is almost out of our control, but we have a little bit more options. So I know it's a lot, and a lot of things got thrown at you kind of very quickly and last minute. So I appreciate you looking into the different options and.
I did have I had a hard time getting the IAC together for meetings, because they weren't happy about the deductible last year, so we're continuing to work with them and informing them, and maybe we'll see who's gonna be on the committee next year. We'll go with that, but.
So I think I need to get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Whitman seconds.
Roll call.
Clock eye.
Benoit eye?
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols, aye. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Becky.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Becky. And please tell the IAC thank you as well. I know.
All right. Chief, you're up. I think we have the documents, right?
We don't have the
It was
documents.
huge. It was like, I think it was sent to us as a PDF because it was a large file.
Oh, then forget it.
I just printed the pages you need to sign because, you know.
Priorities, right?
It's all
Just,
about.
just
budget.
trust whatever is above.
Yeah, that's right. Well, you've had it since February. to
I
read
know,
it,
we,
so.
I meant, do we have the documents to sign?
All right. All right, so those are the three. Lyndon, I think you have 3 pages, and then the rest of the board only has 1 page to sign.
Yeah, but we have original set too, right?
Well, they're not original.
Okay.
Everything's printed in copy.
All right.
Yeah. As I stated 2 weeks ago at my department updates, the emergency management plan is complete. We just needed the signature pages to get signed. I'll bring them around to the rest of the boards and committees to sign their signature lines. That'll be uploaded to MEMA on the web EOC portal. It'll be available to be accessed by anyone during any type of emergency plan that needs to be activated in the town. It was a big project, and it's.
You want a motion, do it?
So we have three different
We have
signatures?
one, and we have 3.
All right, so yeah, can I get a motion to sign the?
Motion to sign the comprehensive emergency management plan. And for the chair to sign his own, the single copy. You said there was a single one there, right?
This is,
Yeah, there's 2 pages.
No.
Yeah.
Do I have a second?
Whitman, a second.
Clock eye.
Benoit eye.
Whitman, aye.
Nichols, aye.
Thank you, Seth, for all the work. I know as emergency management director, I think the past few years you've had it more than anyone could have expected. And and I know that you've been flat out, and then to add this in addition to all of that as well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you to have you in this role because
It's been a long 2 years.
that's just this one, please,
Yeah.
signed by the
Yeah.
rest of us. Skip.
Just a minute.
Yeah, that one's signed too.
He only signed that.
Oh.
Next time.
Oh, those names on there, it's just me. I'm not important.
You're the only one on there.
I'm the only one on this one too. Jeez. Don't have to worry about that next year.
while we're waiting, I know historically the fire chief has been kind
Yeah, I
of the emergency management director.
Yep.
In small towns, is that generally how it is, or?
I would say towns under 5,000, that's pretty, consistent. Once you get into a larger community, that gets closer to the 10,000 mark, it becomes very problematic. Just the reporting requirements alone, when you start getting into FEMA reimbursement stuff, I will say the last 18 months, I've concentrated so much on recouping our costs on the federal level that it's been very time consuming. So it's something that needs to be addressed. I can't wear both hats. It's one thing if we have an ice storm that lasts 1 or 2 weeks duration, and you kind of recover quickly from, but a pandemic like this is just spread too thin. You just can't do it all. and things get dropped and things get missed. So,
And if I may, sorry, if,
That's fine.
do we, is it something that, a position that for kind of that 10,000 spot is oftentimes regionalized? Or is it more of a dedicated,
it's
Like
it's
how-
usually a task that's assigned to a mid-level management position. And, you know, Holden has done it. One of the full-time firefighters is assigned that role as the assistant emergency management director that handles a lot of that stuff. Other towns, the deputy fire chief handles those roles and assumes those responsibilities. So, I mean, there's many different models we can look at. It has, you know, the needs of the town increase, the demand for staffing of the fire department will increase. And so as the department grows, we may incorporate that role into another position. So.
thank you.
Thanks, Chief. So, can you
I
take
have
these? Yeah.
Hey Seth, make sure they're all signed.
Thanks, Skip. No
All
problem.
right, town administrator report.
Yes, sir.
You've been so quiet over there.
I am.
Forgot you were here. Might as well stick you over in
The
the
gentleman
corner.
has my seat in the corner. But yes, thank you. So, based on the findings of the meeting, joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee on the 21st, and discussion of availability of funds or lack thereof, I called a meeting of the ARPA committee, the following Monday to discuss what we were gonna do. So, all agreed, and I have a list of expenditures that we're looking for to come out of the ARPA funds. So, snow and ice deficit, $248,626.37. Summer help, $16,000. Cruiser lease payment, $18,666. And turnout gear for $20,000. The total of those additional items, after what the Board of Selectmen had previously approved, just the total of those items is $303,292.37. Now, with that total of 303, total projects approved or expenditures approved by the board is 1.1 million, roughly 1.1 million, and your allotment for 2021 was 1.3. With that 1.1 coming out of that, it leaves you a checkbook balance of approximately $224,493.26. Now, in August of 22, you'll receive another allotment of 1.3 roughly. Added to that 224 gives you 1.5. So right now, until August, you have a balance of $224,493.26. So I'm here for the board's approval for the use of ARPA funds for the expenditures as listed. And I'd also like to state to the board and those interested that this is a Band-Aid. The additional funds that I'm asking for tonight is a Band-Aid. It doesn't fix the overall problem. I'm concerned that once you have a balance or once you reach that next allotment, that these funds will disappear prior to December of 25, which is the cutoff, December 31st of 2025. We don't know if there's any other funds coming. I'm very concerned about burning up all that money. I like to leave a balance. The committee members like to leave a balance. It's only 224. And they have assured me, as we've had good meetings and discussed, that we really have to scrutinize where we're going to use these funds in the future. So, to the chair, I'm requesting an additional expenditure from ARPA funds of $303,292.37.
So if we can take each one and just kind of explain what it will pay for, and we'll vote on each one individually.
Oh, sure, okay.
If that's okay.
Sure. Well, the snow and ice deficit is $248,626.37. That's a common occurrence. Happens year to year. That's for the additional costs of road chemicals,
Yeah.
fuels, and so on and so forth.
And that covers the full deficit.
Covers the full deficit.
All right. Do I have a motion on?
Motion so moved.
Do I have a second?
Waitman seconds.
Any discussion? All right, roll call.
Clock eye.
Waitman, aye.
And Nichols' eye.
Thank you. The next is for summer help for the Department of Public Works, $16,000. due to the shortage of staffing in the DPW and the maintenance required for town grounds, we're looking for the additional help at a cost of $16,000 to help with those tasks.
So, when you say additional help, is that, are they hiring an agency or a person for the summer, or what will that give us for that money as a breakdown?
The estimate is based on 2 college-age students working, cutting lawns at minimum wage.
Okay, so you're hiring individual people, not a company?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Hopefully some local kids.
Well,
And
they'll
it's
be
based on just
local,
2.
all right.
It's based on 2 local kids to work for the summer.
All right, I just wanted to know how that was broken down. All right, does anybody have any questions?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Whitman seconds.
A roll call?
Clock eye.
Benoit eye.
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols, aye?
Okay, the next is $18,666, and that is the first payment on a cruiser lease. So the cruiser's already here, obviously, and these funds are needed for that first payment.
And just as a further explanation, so that was taken out of the budget
That was in the budget,
previously,
that's correct. and
which
it's
should have been
taken out.
a regular occurrence, so this is
Correct.
just to correct that for now, and as you said, it's only a Band-Aid, which this is a
Correct.
reoccurring expense for a current lease. Correct?
Right.
Okay,
Motion to approve. $18,666 for cruiser lease.
do we have a second?
Whitman seconds.
Roll call?
Clock eye.
Benoit eye.
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols, aye?
Okay, and the last being $20,000 for turnout gear. This was definitely a line item that was short. These firefighters need this turnout gear. It was not replenished last year. So this is actually what we'll need to catch up to be current, is 2 years for $20,000 for turnout
Is it
gear.
6 turnouts?
Is that 6, Seth?
That will give us 7
Yep.
total.
7.
7?
7 total, yeah.
And that puts us, I mean, not totally where we need to be, but more on a,
It catches us up us up for what we lost last year and then what was kind of this coming year's budget, so
so
at least
we're on schedule for now.
we should be doing fine once we get caught up.
Thank you.
Motion to approve for the fire department, turnout gear, $20,000.
Whitman seconds.
Roll call?
Clock eye.
Benoit eye.
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols, aye? That's it.
That's all of them, sir, but I just, again, I want to reiterate, I'm very concerned about the expenditures of this money going forward in the future. So they will be scrutinized through the committee as those that are being put forth. I know the CIPC put through many items to look for purchase to use the ARPA funds, but right now, this doesn't really take care of any of the items they're putting forward.
No, go ahead.
Am I correct that, Gary, that in this, I'm saying this mostly because it's for the recording for anybody that's listening, all of those items were taken out of the budget or should have been in the budget?
All of those items
we
should
can't
have
afford
been,
it.
right, in the budget, and based
So-
on the meeting last week, where like I said, the availability or lack thereof, those were pulled out of the budget and decided to use, through the committee, the ARPA funds or bring forward to you.
Karen?
That's correct.
Karen Narwhal, 149 Palmagussit Road. Snow and ice is always
Right.
included in the budget. We do not budget it enough, and it's always a deficit. So it is not taken out of the budget, it's just we've never
It's
fully
there
funded
to start
that.
with.
Right.
But all of that should have been in the budget.
Well, that one's a tough one, but the regular recurring ones that the committee had always did was a
That's
cruiser.
the only one I disagree with is
Right.
snow and ice.
Right. We understand that. Duly noted. Did you get that, David? Name and address.
And if I may, I just wanted to reiterate, we talked about it at FinCom meeting, the joint meeting the other week, but like you, Gary, I really struggle with allocating these funds for this purpose because I feel like it's a hole that we're in, and this is a bad Band-Aid on a giant problem.
We have 4
We
days,
need
we
to
can
turn
sit
it.
down as a group and decide who to lay off.
But no,
I mean, that's where we're at, guys. We are not budgeting expenses with huge increases. We don't want to, I know myself, I do not want to go through what we went through last year trying to balance the budget with layoffs. I
Right.
don't want to have to do that.
right.
So that's where we're at.
And that was my point in the FinCom, was we're at the point now that it's either we're losing people or we continue to cut stuff.
Yeah.
And as we've heard from our residents, they're not happy with the level of staffing we have in some areas as it is. So we're already kind of at a critical point on staffing, and then we've been taking away stuff for them to do their job safely. And so I'm not disagreeing with you, Karen, at all. It's the same conversation we had in
This has
the
been going
joint
on for
meeting,
years.
that we need to have a serious look at things, and hopefully we can have buy-in from residents, that we all hear different pieces from these residents, but to actually have that buy-in as to priorities or how to pay for these priorities. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Moving forward, if you will, through the chair, as we have done in the past with finance and with the Board of Selectmen, and I don't want to just say this is how we're gonna do things, it's just my suggestion, but I really think we should start looking at the budget ahead of schedule and, for the next fiscal, so we can all collectively sit down and decide these things, so, along with finance, obviously, so we have to see where we are, and I really hate to see this kitty go away 2 years before it should. Okay? Just my thoughts.
Thank you. You're still talking, you know.
Excuse me?
Vacancies, and you still have things on
Oh,
your
there's more? There's more? I know, I put it in the book, sir. Okay, vacancies, thank you. We have 2 vacancies. We received 3 covers and resumes for the position of town accountant. Last Monday, Rebecca, Dan Haynes, and myself interviewed one of the 3 who was more than qualified. The other 2 had really no municipal experience, governmental or otherwise, but in my opinion, the person that we interviewed is excellent and would fit right into this position and be very successful at it. And I do have, I don't have, but Rebecca's here because she was part of that. And this person not only talked the talk, but I know she can walk the walk. Very happy with that. And through the chair, I don't know if the board wishes to meet with this person or if we just want to expedite the filling of this vacancy based on the interview panel, make the offer and move forward.
And Dan was very supportive of the candidate.
Yes. Yeah.
Does the board have any reason you want to?
I could comment, and then, I mean, she's somebody who's got 20 years' experience and holds town accountant positions in Massachusetts, has for 20 years, so she's well qualified and is a nice person.
Oh, sorry, I just have one, if I may,
Sure.
sorry. I just had a question. Was the scheduling piece okay? Because I know we had questions as far as accessibility, having access to
Yes.
the town accountant.
Yep.
And whether it's a full day or a couple part days or what that looks like. You know, I think I was hopeful that we had offered some flexibility, obviously that's mutually agreed upon between our town department heads and an individual.
Yep.
But
Yeah,
that,
that was brought up in the interview, that she was gonna be able to be in the office at some point, you know, whether it's a full day, whether it's a couple half days, or however her schedule works, but one of the things that she, like her strengths, was working with people, and would rather have people come to her and ask her questions than just kind of figuring things out and that type of stuff.
and I'm sorry,
Like-
follow up
That's
question.
fine.
We have
She's good.
like suitable office space for her, because I
Yeah.
know Dan hasn't been in office recently, and so I just wanna make sure that it's not like just a desk that she, or like
No,
a
no,
table that she's
it's a
able-
locked, it's a
Okay.
locked office with, you know, also all the bills and everything
Yeah.
are all in there, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, I'd like to make a motion for them to move forward and
Second.
hire them.
Whitman will second.
Roll call.
Like I,
Whitman, aye.
And Nichols' eye.
Thank you.
both. And he
Thank you,
couldn't
guys.
make it, and Carol couldn't make it, but he was asked.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think we excluded the
No, I
finance.
included Karen,
Okay.
and she gave me the contact information for Mr. O'Malley, but he didn't get it till the next day, so,
Right.
and he was fine with it, he was fine.
I've spoken to them.
Well, the next vacancy we have, as everybody knows, is the administrative assistant for the Board of Selectmen and the Town Administrator. I have so far received 11 covers and applications and resumes for that position. What I would like to do after town meeting is over and start immediately for that interview process, so next week. If Karen doesn't cut me from the working after that. Thank you, Karen.
Not until July 1st.
What a gal. Wait a minute, like 3 months up, July 1st? 12 days? And that's all I have for the vacancy update. I thank you for that, because it's a very important position.
Yes, it is.
I won't tell you who I want for the job. I'll just look at the person. And we'll have to talk. But that's really all I have. I do have as the next agenda item, to the chair, Wachusett Road, but I think it was discussed enough, and I think everybody knows the case, so I'd like to
Okay.
eliminate that discussion, and that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions for the town administrator?
I know we kind of touched base on it under vacancy update, not tonight, previously, as far as kind of not wanting to rush things with Gary being an interim and town meeting and all of that, but just not lose that off the radar either, that we have an interim town administrator, and I think as a board, we need to be mindful and start thinking of how we are going to move forward to, hire a full-time town administrator. And so,
I mean, my impression was to get through town meeting and
right.
reorganize the
Talk about
board.
it
Right,
afterwards.
but it's more for people listening or who may watch, because there's been a lot of questions as far as what's the plan, and I think we kind of agreed that it's been a little crazy coming in the past month and everything, but I just wanted to.
Yeah.
So if you're going by rumors, the rumors I hear is they hope he stays a year so they can save a ton of money to put it toward the budget. Okay, that's the rumors I hear.
Like I said, I appreciate Gary jumping in and getting through the town meeting, so I think, we'll give and hiring a new, assistant for him, et cetera, so, and hiring an accountant and everything else, so, I imagine after town meeting. Yep.
It's under vacancies,
Yep.
and
And
that's,
it's a long process.
so I just wanted to,
Okay.
that we as a board are not ignoring that technically a
Yes, we are.
full-time town administrator.
Yes, we are.
Understood.
Maybe
Thank
Skip
you.
is.
Thank you. Understood.
Sorry, Gary.
I'm looking to save the town money.
All right, next up was on,
Linda, you got a question?
yes,
Mr. Chairman, as DPW, I'm aware of recent correspondence we received from the Commonwealth regarding Wachusett Road and its status as a town road. I'd like to have that reviewed because there was some question in the previous selectmen's meeting regarding use of Chapter 90 funds, which I'm responsible for, and actions we've taken about the road. So could you please ask the town administrator to verify the findings from the Commonwealth?
so,
When do you get that?
Oh, I'm sorry, Joe, I just thought, my apologies. The findings through the Commonwealth. Through investigation, research, both with Director of Department of Public Works and Anita, based on, and Mr. Chrissy obviously mentioned the article of 1987, Article 6, that a motion was put forth to discontinue, and it was voted as a no action. I did talk to the state. I talked to the District 3 of MassDOT State Engineer Mike O'Hara. I talked to the director and his fellow workers at the MassDOT Geospatial Technology. Showed them what we had, sent them the information I received from Joe and the information I received from Anita. And they informed me that through mapping, they did send some pictures of maps. They sent them to Joe as well. They had the wrong location marked, and Joe corrected it and sent back, and they agreed with it. And their findings were that Wachusett Road is in fact a town-accepted road and a state-accepted roadway, and was being entered immediately into the database, and so therefore would be eligible for Chapter 90.
so they did not have it on their list until you actually
It was not on the
contacted them, so
list.
it was not-
We believe
not
that it may
acknowledged
just
by them.
have happened as something simple as a typo, because they saw the Wachusett Street and just didn't have a Wachusett.
But they weren't
Road
carrying
entered.
it as a street.
Correct,
Correct.
correct, but it is not.
Just one other quick thing. Something else, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, something else came to the surface. There's probably 10 roads that are town roads that are not on the list. Some of them are even paved. So one of the things, a good thing that's come
They're
out of all of
paved?
it, I'm sorry?
The paved, is that what you say?
Some of them that are even paved town roads that are not on the Chapter 90 data layer, because they don't use a list anymore. It's a layer, it's a GIS layer, it's been that way for probably 20 years. They're missing 10 roads.
So
If not
if we're
more.
aware of that, shouldn't we be telling them that?
We're working on it now.
Okay.
And actually, we've worked on that in the past, Joe. Actually, we've had field inspections. I don't know if you were part of that, Mr. Williams, or not. Well, I won't mention the roads, but they are not, in fact, town roads at all, and they were not accepted by the site visit with planning, with the DPW at the time. Not accepted roadways. We do plow snow and ice, but we do not and did not at that time do any structural repairs or road repairs.
And if I may, this was something we had asked the previous town administrator to work on with, I think, the town clerk, as far as getting a certified list of certified town roads, so that looking at this situation kind of brought it all to the surface. Unfortunately for Mr. Zotley and everything, and we've been asking for a list of certified town roads. We do have a list. I think right shortly before you left, the board had voted on a list of private ways that had historically always been snow and ice removed,
Right.
not necessarily maintained, and we had voted to close that list and not continue to add. And we do have that list available. But as far as other roads that are certified town roads that receive whether they receive Chapter 90, whether they were in the pavement management study, whether they, however they fall out, we haven't been able to obtain yet.
Right, and there are several, and Joe and I have talked about this briefly, and I remember them from back when I was here. So that does certainly reduce, they can be added to the equation of your Chapter 90 available funds.
Right.
Once Joe goes through the process, so
Well, that was my
it's all a
concern.
different process now, but there are several, probably more than several, that are not on the list.
Well, that was my concern. If we're aware it's a town road and we're not getting credit for that, then that would be a problem, that we're not making sure that is on the list.
And my only final statement is, we have 2 or 3 different classes of private gravel roads. In a future meeting, we're gonna have to address that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next on the agenda is Christmas Tree Lane, lot number 22.
I did make the trip down to Christmas Tree Lane, did look at it. It has been marked as far as bounds, but it has not been flagged. I did talk with Conservation, and they're absolutely correct. It would be the responsibility of the landowner, if they were going to develop it, to have it flagged, delineated for wetlands. I believe it to be within the buffer. I have not seen, obviously, and really I haven't had time to look at the appraisal report, but it is marked with bounds. To me, it's obviously within the buffer of a wetland, but that would be up to anyone purchasing it to go through that process and to see if it was a buildable lot.
If I may. I think, and I don't remember for sure, I think the landowner that had come asking for it was not to build on it, but to do some grading to assist with drainage, which may or may not be able to happen based on whatever happens with conservation. So I think that's, but I think one of the questions was as far as how to handle kind of excess town property, whether that's physical land property or others. And I think thanks to Seth, he had forwarded along to me, Town of Littleton has a sale of town-owned property policies and procedures. I didn't have a chance to forward it along to I just wanted to, if the town wanted to work towards setting policies and procedures as to how potentially to move forward with all of this, I think that there's a possible template. They also include tax title, which I know Becky normally does as part of her treasurer and collector's job. I also know that last time when there was a larger tax sale, a lot of people had questions about how that process played out. And there's a policy and procedure for that as well. I'm not suggesting that we move forward exactly on this. I just meant to forward it to the board before and didn't, so I printed it out for everyone to look at. And I think we're at the point now, I don't know how much of these excess parcels we may have in town that are kind of small, non-buildable, whatever, town-owned. that may or may not make sense to increase the valuation of an existing person's
Okay.
lot. So if the board at some point is amenable to looking at a policy and procedures, I think there's other towns for sure that have similar policies and procedures in place. So thank you, Seth, for forwarding that along. And
Good. No, I will talk with Chief Knight, and we'll see if we can, look at this a little more deeply. Thank you, Leo.
All right, so I mean, I know a lot of it was, you know, what's in the best interest of the value to the town. I mean, because there still will be an expense of an appraisal, and whether it should be offered to any resident had an interest in it. It should be advertised, and other expenses associated with it. What the value was, whether to keep it as open space, which we've, you know, been supporting open space, and keep it as a natural environment. And like I said, if it's gonna be an expense to the town, it's certainly, I don't think it's, if it's sold, I don't think it's gonna bring in a lot of tax revenue. It's just a small piece of property. So you just have to weigh in that it's gonna be more of an expense than a benefit to the town. I mean, I understand that a neighbor would, you know, somebody might want to purchase the property to expand their current property, but it's gotta be the town's best interest that we're actually gonna be considering.
And I think that there is a mechanism in which the town could have it posted such that the buyer is responsible for the expenses and everything that would go along with the sale of it. Not necessarily, so that would just mean any buyer, whether it's, because I think in particular this interested person has suggested that they would be amenable to paying for the survey costs and the legal costs and everything of that nature. But because we still have to be able to dispose of it in a town manner, posting it such that the buyer is responsible for all the expenses associated with the
But all those
sale.
would have to be done prior to determining the value. It's gotta be appraised for value, it's gotta be, sort of, all that has to be done up front. So you can't allow somebody to pay it up front before you agree to sell it to them. So we have to appraise it to know exactly what we're gonna think is an appropriate value. And who's gonna pay for the appraisal? It would have to be the town that would pay for the appraisal.
Also, through the chair, I'm familiar with the piece of property is, and I'm concerned about the drainage work. We're gonna divert this drainage to, you know, we're gonna put it into, obviously, a wetland, because that's the low point. I'm really very concerned about that, and I'm also kind of concerned whether the person that's interested in purchasing is aware of that, because that's an expense in itself, if you want to look at that first. So to put drainage into a wetland really is no. So it's got to be done properly. My opinion, and it's only my opinion, I certainly respect the wishes of the board, is I would hold on to it. Just only my opinion.
I mean, we've rehashed it several times, and I don't really see that much information has changed too much. So I would just assume if the board wants to make some kind of a motion.
Motion to retain as open space at this time.
I'll second.
Any other discussion?
Clock eye.
Whitman, no.
And Nichols, aye. All right, Mr. Senecal has been patient. And he's all dressed up, looking dapper, so trying to make us look bad.
It was a long day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, Gary?
Mr. Senecal, are you going to tell us more about insurance?
No, you gotta get creative today, trust me. But you gotta sell to the employees the right way too, when they
It's
hear
good
the gospel,
gospel.
they get itchy. I feel for her, boy, having to deliver that message every year. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have applied for a Class 2 car dealer's license under the Home Occupation Act. What I do, I have a, basically, it's kind of just a hobby that's kind of grown into a little bit more than that, but I sell and buy classic cars, collector cars. Sometimes I buy them and I have to do a little work to them before I sell them. Sometimes I just buy them and sell them. I buy them online, or I buy them personally when I go to an auction in another part of the country, and I bring those back. So under the bylaw, I'm not doing any of this work. I'm not selling cars in my driveway on 64 Glenwood Road. Okay, I don't really want to have a car dealership there. But through my business, I'm an electrical contractor, and we've got about 60 trucks on the road. So I have my own mechanics. We have our own shop there, and fixing, working on these cars in between downtime when they need a little work, it actually works out pretty good. So we do all the work in Worcester. That's where I'm based. So I went over this with Norm Anderson in the planning board, as well as Mr. George from the planning, head of planning, and they felt like I wouldn't fall under, I don't meet any of the requirements of the Major Home Occupation Act, so I wouldn't need to apply for that, because again, all I'm doing is running the office out of my home. So I'm not gonna have a sign, not gonna have any of the cars there, all the cars are in Worcester, we're doing all the work there. Quite honestly, I'd rather give Rutland the $100 a year for the license than Worcester. They get enough of my money for all the property taxes. But that's what I'm here to apply for. It's an internet business. It's not again, I'm not setting up a car dealership in a residential neighborhood.
I did see when you went before the planning board, so what were you talking about then as opposed to this? Like, they said you didn't need to do anything at that time, so this is a different type of a...
Yeah, so under the home occupation, right, we all have the right to have like an office at home and work out of our home, right? And that's in the Massachusetts law, but it's also the bylaw of us in Rutland. But Rutland has the home occupational. So if I was to have, like, let's say one employee, and I was to do some of the work there at, fixing up some of the cars at my residential property, I'd have to meet the criteria of that major home occupation. But none of the work, the way I'm doing it, falls under any of that criteria. So they didn't need me to have that major home occupation approval to come to this board to get my Class 2 license. Because none of that work is being done in Rutland. It's all being done down in Worcester. If I ever did do it by being malicious, any neighbor could complain, and I'd be in front of the building inspector, zoning officials, you guys, and you can rip my license away, and away I go.
So majority of it's just office work?
That's all it is. That's all it is, Mr. Chairman. It's just office work. That's it. Just doing the online work, the title, paper, shuffles, things like that.
Okay. Does anybody on the board have any questions?
The internet has new challenges sometimes for the way things are done. It's different than what the old ways and rules and laws have been used to do.
So you want a motion to approve
Yes.
Classic 2 license application for Chris Senecal approval?
Do we have a second?
Wait 10 seconds.
Any other comments? Roll call?
Clock eye.
Wait, then I.
And Nick is aye.
Thank you, everyone.
So, I think this just gets processed out of your office, right, Terry? We don't have to sign anything, we just have to approve it. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
I'll just catch up with you on that. That's the
Yeah,
process to get the
after
license.
town meeting when we got help.
Yeah, I'll let you be for a week. Understood, no problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, have a good night.
Have a good night.
All right, only thing left on the agenda is Economic Development Plan Committee. Has there been any meetings or anything? Have you heard anything? Did Randy already left?
I haven't been at one-to-one. No.
Okay.
I think based on master plan, I think that they had a meeting and maybe CMRPC had met with them to go over the master plan, economic development chapter of the master plan. So I don't know that CMRPC's feedback from them was completed, but I think that they did have a meeting and are starting to kind of do a little bit.
Do we have anybody here on the committee?
They had a meeting, I had to help them connect to the Wi-Fi, so they did have a meeting.
So if you just can make sure you touch base with them, Gary,
Okay.
just so you get someone involved.
Who's the chair?
I think Randy's the chair,
Randy.
yeah.
Who?
Randy
Randy
Jordan.
Jordan.
Okay, he left, okay. All right, thank you.
Nothing new on the website, updates or anything like that. And we haven't filled any vacancies on boards, well, at this point, boards and commissions, everything's, a lot of rollovers are coming at the end of the year.
No, but I do want to say that working with Anita from the town clerk's office and trying to get all of the information together so that we can actually have a more comprehensive package of appointing the boards and commissions so that we can have it all in place for July 1. I even ran it by Anita that maybe she could have a night or two and really publicize it so people can come in and get sworn in or do their cards or whatever they need to do individually. So we're hacked again. So
Oh, is that what that is?
somebody's able to share their screen.
All right. All right, no, that's great. Gary already talked about vacancies. Budget, you have your last meeting, what, Thursday?
We had our meeting last Thursday. It's
Oh.
final. Dan.
Oh, it's final.
Yeah, it's final, blessed by Dan, and it's in Gary's hand.
Oh, all right, awesome. And it's balanced?
No,
No, it's, well,
it is.
balanced as it will be, it's gonna be. All right. We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Got a second?
Wait a second.
Clock eye.
Wait a minute.
And Nichols' eye. Thank you all.